All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another day of SaberSim's DFS office hours. It is Wednesday, August 9th of 2023 here. Looking ahead, we had a three-game early slate already kick off. Good luck to all of you playing that early slate. We have a nine-game MLB main slate later today, and then we also have PGA teeing off early tomorrow morning. So should be a fun day of DFS here. Plenty of lineups to sweat, plenty of lineups to build. But for those of you who are new here, welcome. My name is Andrew. I'm one of the coaches over here at SaberSims, the show where we go over how to use the SaberSim app, answer any and all DFS related questions. You can post your questions one of three ways. One, send us an email, support@sabersim.com. Two, you can post your questions live in the YouTube chat. And three, you can post your questions in the office hours channel in our Discord server. If you're not in our Discord, want to get access to that channel, there is a link in the description of this video. You also get access to all of our similar channels. See when lineups are released, see when players are scratched, see when sims run for that updated news. In the app, we have a last updated timestamp, but in the Discord, you get a little more detailed information as to what exactly was updated. Also get access to all of our individual sport channels. Members of the SaberSim team and members of the community are in those channels each and every day, helping each other get better. A lot of sharp users in the community. So can't say enough good things about the Discord. But with that being said, going to get the app pulled up here. Two questions in the YouTube chat. Looks like two questions in the office hours channel here. So we are going to start with those. But as always, if anybody has any questions, now is a great time to get those in. So real quick, just going to hit this one first. Snowman said, asking about preseason football. So we have the preseason slates in the app. If you navigate over to NFL, just the NFL drop down, you're going to see the preseason slates here. So I have preseason week 2, 2-game preseason main slate over on FanDuel is the first slate that is populating here. So preseason slates are in the app. We are not providing projections for those. We are not simming those, but they are available if you, have outside projections, maybe like Run Pure's doing it or something like that. You can upload them into SaberSim and use the SaberSim builder to build your lineups. So just a note there. And then one other thing is that if you go to the build settings for NFL preseason, the sim diversity slider is basically just going to be a randomness slider here. So the higher it is, the more randomness you're adding, and the lower it is, the less randomness you're adding. So just a couple of notes there. But going to jump over to the office hours channel, and then we will be back to the YouTube chat. So first question, J. Sam Jr. said, how are the batters still projected with a high projection when they were going against a tough pitching matchup? So let's go over to our 9-game MLB slate today, and then let's just kind of see what's going on here, right? So I ran a couple builds earlier doing some testing, but let's just go with the highest projected pitcher, right? So we have Shohei Ohtani facing the San Francisco Giants here. So then I'm going to jump over to batters. First thing I want to see is, where is the first San Francisco batter, right? And the first San Francisco batter is pretty far down in our batter list here. Wilmer Flores with a projection of 8.59. Our top projected hitter is Ronald Acuna with 11.7. So I think that in general, they are not going to be the highest projected hitters here. But even if somebody has a tough matchup, good hitters are just as good as good pitchers, right? You kind of think of that immovable object meeting an unstoppable force kind of like analogy here, right? Just because, a good pitcher does not mean they're going to mow down a good team, right? And even sometimes good pitchers are going to be hit by less than your average team, right? We saw that with Spencer Strider, I believe yesterday or the day before, giving up 5 runs very early on to the Pittsburgh Pirates, which the Pirates are not the best hitting team across the league here. So baseball is super random. Very high variance here, so a lot of things can happen on any given day. But I think on average, you are probably going to see something along the lines of what you're talking about, unless you have a very good hitting team against the pitcher, right? Maybe something like Zach Gallen against the Dodgers. I don't know if he's pitching tonight. I think he might have pitched yesterday, but that would be an example, right? A very good, strong hitting team. Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith, JD Martinez against, Zach Gallen. So two very strong opponents there facing off. You never really know what's going to happen, right? So good question to get us started. Next question here from Ryan. Ryan said, I have been late swapping MLB lineups when any players have been ruled out after lock. Thoughts on quick swap versus late swapping players after lock in MLB? Okay, really good question here. So I definitely have some thoughts on this one. One thing that I do want to think about when this happens, right? So basically what happens, you build your lineups, lock hits, something happens, player gets scratched, updated lineups, whatever it may be, right? So I think that pitchers have a bigger impact than batters. So in general, if I don't know who's pitching, Shohei Ohtani pitching for the Angels, and Shohei, they say, hey, Shohei has cramps before the slate, and he's not going to start, right? So that probably has a much bigger effect on the slate simply because of his salary, right? 11,300 is over 20% of the salary available here at 50,000. So this salary can really change the context of a slate, right? So I think when a pitcher gets scratched, I would do a full late swap. I would make sure to do a full late swap just to take advantage of that news and the dynamics there. And then secondly, like if, more often than not, that does not happen. More often than not, it is a batter who is getting scratched here. The way I like to think about this is that, late swapping is never the wrong answer here, because all you are doing is just taking advantage of the most updated news and using that to reconstruct your lineups, right? So if new sims have run, whatever it may be, you're just taking that updated news and using it. So I'm never going to discourage anybody from late swapping here. But let's say that, it's after lock, maybe it's dinner time, right? Maybe like life stuff, you got the kids or whatever it is, right? And you don't want to, go back to your computer, late swap, make any adjustments, things like that. So I understand that. I totally do. When it comes to that situation, for me, it kind of depends how many shares of a player I have in my lineups, right? So let's say I'm building 150 lineups. Maybe I have Ronald Acuna in 5% of my lineups, right? I have him in 7-ish lineups, something like that. I might just do a quick swap. I'll probably use best from the same team, and I will just be okay with that and upload it and be set, right? But maybe, I have 25% of Ronald Acuna. Well, now, that's a really much larger portion of my portfolio here that's going to be affected. I'm actually, would probably make sure to late swap in that scenario just because it affects so much of my lineups, right? So don't really want to just quick swap in that scenario. So what I like to do is, okay, I will use the red lightning bolt, see who is out, and then I will jump over to the entries tab and then see how much exposure I have to those players that are out, and then make a determination about what I want to do, right? But that's really just for time saving purposes here. That is never for thinking quick swap is better than late swap. Late swap will always be better. One other thing here is, if you're in a time crunch, right, I would just do the quick swap. Best available, best from same team, whatever works, right? And then upload that to DraftKings and then come back to the app and then run a late swap. Just to make sure that, whatever happens, if something goes wrong with your late swap, whether there's, salary constrictions or some other rule or something preventing players from being swapped out of your lineups, at least that, hey, I got lineups in that had the out player out, and I got players with projections into the site, into my contest, right? So doing that quick swap and then coming back to the app and doing the late swap is probably the best order of operations here that I would recommend. All right. Good question there. Jumping back to the YouTube chat, see people trickling in. Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. We have just finished questions in the office hours channel. We are going to hit this question from Deshaun here. Looks like he has 2 questions, and then we will be out of questions. So if anybody has anything on their mind, chances are somebody else does too. So now is a great time to ask that question and help everybody out. All right. Deshaun said, hey, would it be best practice on large 20 max contests to adjust sliders to get more contrarian, or use the mini neek to get more contrarian in the large field 20 max contest? Second question, would you consider it good practice if I wanted to change ownership by just looking at adjusted ownership, then setting my ownership to what the adjusted ownership is? I hope I'm making sense with how I worded that one. Okay, so gonna tackle this first one, the second question first here. So basically he's saying, hey, I see the SaberSim ownership is 19%. Ronald Acuna's adjusted ownership is 25%. Should I just change my ownership to the adjusted ownership? And the answer is no, you don't have to here. And the reason for that is because we are using adjusted ownership in the SaberScore metric when grading your lineups, right? So in the building process, we are not using ownership at all. We are only because we don't need to use ownership. We used to have an ownership slider. We got rid of it because we decided that we were double counting. We were counting ownership as a slider and then counting it as a lineup grading metric here. But we've moved that just to SaberScores here. So if you go and look at the SaberScore that you're using to grade your lineups, we are already using average adjusted ownership. Average adjusted ownership is a form of adjusted ownership here, which takes the adjusted ownership of the lineup, looks at the lineup as a whole, and then takes the average of that and then uses that as a variable for your SaberScore formula there. Can be a little hard to understand here. If you guys are looking for more information on adjusted ownership, you guys can go to settings and then go to help here. This will bring up our support library. I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here. Apologies for that. But in our support library, if you go down to frequently asked questions, you go to view more, and then in the header bar, you type in adjusted ownership. And then what is adjusted ownership, right? And then this is a good video that Jordan did kind of explaining what adjusted ownership is, how it works, etc. So things like that. So this is a really good reference video if you guys are ever looking for a refresher on that specific topic. But getting back to the app here, where was I? So you don't need to change it. We're already using adjusted ownership. But also, if you were to adjust it here, right? If I go back to batters, I go to Ronald Acuna. Adjusted ownership is a formula that is using SaberSim ownership as an input. So as I adjust the player ownership, the adjusted ownership is going to change for the player as well as the position as a whole here. And the best way we could see this is with a very big adjustment, right? So maybe I change my SaberSim ownership. We'll actually just match, right? So it's 20, adjusted ownership is 25. I'm going to change my own to 25. And then we're going to see that the adjusted own now increases to 34%, right? So this ownership is an input into the adjusted ownership formula here. And then if I go back, what I can see, probably Rafael Devers has a 30.8 for adjusted ownership, a increase to Acuna's. Okay, I didn't move him there. Let's try higher. Interesting that it's not moving Devers, but it is moving other players. So if I look at Masataka Yoshida at 27.2 adjusted ownership, when I increase Ronald Acuna's my own to 30%, Yoshida goes from 27.2 to 27.05. So small adjustments, but ultimately it does have an effect on the entire positional basis. Oh, that's why. So this is handled on a position by position basis. So outfielders will affect outfielders. Shortstops will affect shortstops. So that's why Devers was not moving, because Devers is a third baseman and Acuna is an outfielder there. So this is handled on a position by position basis. All right. And then first question here was, hey, would it be best practice on large 20 max slates to adjust sliders to get more contrarian, or use the mini uniques to get more contrarian in the large field 20 max contest? Okay. So good question here. So let's say that I am building for a 20 max, over 50,000 entrants, right? So at these sliders here, the correlation is 9, sim diversity is 9. I would probably never use sim diversity 10 for large MLB classic slates. We talk about this, pretty frequently, but at sim diversity 10, you're taking a single game sim from each game on the slate and then creating one entire slate simulation and then building the highest scoring lineup from that slate simulation and then using that as your lineup. The bad thing about that is that, in baseball, we are not trying to find the optimal lineup. We would call that, trying to find an optimal lineup for a slate simulation here. We don't need that for baseball, right? We just need the winning lineup. And that is why stacking is so important, right? The optimal lineup is going to be a bunch of one-offs, maybe a 2-stack, maybe a 3-stack, right? But in general, you're never going to find that score. You're never going to need that score to win. So that's why it's better to just take advantage of these high run scoring environments, get that correlation stacked on top of each other with the batters here, and just build the winning lineup, right? So little nuance between optimal and winning lineup there. So Sim Diversity 9 helps you do that a little bit because we are taking small groups of sims, right? We might take 5 sims of each game, run a slate simulation, and then if a random player, random 8-hitter has a 2 home run game in one of the sims, well, he still has to perform in the other 4 sims to have enough fantasy points on average across those 5 sims to get into your lineup, right? So that helps to curate some of those one-off kind of random scenarios where player might do really good, but aside from that, one game sim, they don't do very good across other sims here. So that can really help you to kind of weed out those players. So that's why I like Sim Diversity 9 here. So if your Sim Diversity is less than 9 and you want to be more contrarian, I would increase it. I think that is a fine option here. Another thing that you can do is mess around with your Saber score here. So let's say you're playing a 20 max and maybe it's 10 to 50K entrance, which is pretty normal. The negative weight on average adjusted ownership is negative 0.6 here. If you increase to the 50K plus entries, the negative weight goes up to negative 0.7 here. So small increase there. If you were on the pro plan, you could create a custom metric here where you basically recreate the Saber score formula and then increase this weight until the lineups look like what you want them to look like, right? So that's another option here. Mini Neeks is very good for decreasing the amount of correlation between your lineups, but I wouldn't say that Mini Neeks helps you get more contrarian. So I just want to be clear, like kind of on that point. So what Mini Neeks is doing is saying, hey, within these 20 lineups, there are 10 players per lineup. At a Mini Neek of 1, that means that I cannot have 2 lineups that are exactly the same. Each lineup must have at least 1 player different than every other lineup in this set of 20. Well, as you increase this, now what you're telling the builder at a Mini Neeks of 5 is like, hey, look at all 20 lineups here. If any of the lineups has more than 5 players the same, remove that lineup and fill it with a lineup that doesn't have more than 5 players the same. So then now, if I look at my last lineup was number 62. So in my top 62 lineups, there are 20 lineups that have 5 players different from every other lineup there. So it's actually like a very big calculation to check that for one lineup against 19 and then the other against 19, other against 19, however that works out, right, mathematically here. But that is basically what Mini Neeks is doing, right? So it is decreasing the correlation between the lineups that you are playing in your contest. And the reason that is good is because at a Mini Neeks of 1, if we go back to 1 here, you're going to get a lot of, I would call it, what's the right word for it? It's not hoarding, but it's a lot of clustering. I think clustering is the right word. So we just really like the Braves here, right? 65% Braves. Our next highest stack is 35%. So you're just getting a lot of Braves, right? And the builder has just identified them as a very good play for this slate here. And then as we increase our Mini Neeks, our top batter exposure was 80%. And then now our top exposure here is, let me make sure I said that right. So our top batter exposure was 65%, which was Ozzy Albies. And then now at being Mini Neeks of 5, our top batter exposure goes down to 35%, which is Ronald Acuna. Albies actually went down to 35% as well. So he goes from 65 to 35 here. So what you're doing is you are spreading out your exposures and basically saying, hey, if I play the Braves out of Mini Neeks of 1, a lot of my lineups are probably living and dying by the Braves, right? So if the Braves do bad, that probably sinks my entire night. But if I increase my Mini Neeks, even if the Braves have a bad game, I have enough lineups that do not have those exact players where I can still have some shots to take down a contest. And then what you're going to see, like if you actually open up the DraftKings app, like on your phone, what you're going to see is that, your lineups are not going to be clustered in your contest. So you can pull up your live contest menu. And then if your lineups are, very, very tight to each other, right? You probably don't have that many Mini Neeks, but when you increase your mini uniques, what you're going to see is your lineups are actually going to be more spread out across your contest. You're not going to have that clustering. You're going to have some lineups maybe at the bottom, some lineups maybe at like the 50th percentile, and then some lineups across the cash line. And then hopefully, you know, one of those lineups can ultimately help you win your contest, right? So you can visually see that on the app, which I think is super cool. But those are some ways that I would, you know, think about implementing if you are trying to get more contrarian. Also, you know, just one other thing here. Baseball, you can build so many lineups, and you can also build so many good lineups as well. Like the amount of available lineups is far into the millions. I'm almost positive here. And you're just so unlikely to be duplicated in an MLB contest that what I tell people is like, hey, I don't worry about duplication until duplication, you know, smacks me in the face. Like if I win a contest and I'm duped 20 times, like, okay, you know, maybe it's time to start taking duplication into account in this specific contest type here. But even with like the most owned lineups here, so if I were to look at like sort by ownership here, and I'm going from highest sum owned lineups to lowest, you know, it really could be like just some of these stack constructions, right? We have this 1, 3, 4, 6, 8 stack. We have a 2, 6, 9 stack of the Yankees here. And you know, it just might be some of those constructions. You just might need a couple low owned plays to help you be different enough to win your contest, right? So Christian Javier, 9% pitcher, Ben Rotvet at 7%, 9-hole Yankees batter. But this 2, 6, 9 stack looks really what's the word I'm looking for? Unique or unconventional here, and then to go along with the Boston 5 stack, right? So I think in baseball specifically, you might not need to be as contrarian as you think here. And just remember that, you know, our Saber scores come from contest back testing, right? We are back testing contests and figuring out, you know, what variables are important, what you know, significance these variables have, and then we are weighting those appropriately, trying to help you get to the best lineups possible. That, you know, if we were to play this slate out 100,000 times, these lineups would win the most money on average, and that is what we are trying to do with Saber Score here. So that is what Saber Score does. I think Saber Score is a great metric in general here, and I would feel comfortable using it. And you know, you can look at some of these lineup dynamics and help you get a sense of, you know, what is too much chalk, what is just enough chalk, etc. Right? So I think you know, doing that is good practice. Samuel said, are more lineups really better, especially with the way Mini Uniques works with SaberSim? So I think there's a balance here, right? And I think the balance can be most exemplified by the DFS profit plan. So in our DFS profit plan, if you guys aren't familiar with it, it's on our YouTube channel. You can find it on our homepage. There is a section called New Here, Start Here First. And then it says Start Winning More with the DFS profit plan. So on the homepage, it's a 17-minute video here. If you guys aren't familiar with it, I would highly recommend checking it out. It is our contest selection framework that we created after lots and lots of back testing here, which you know, we're back testing our sliders, we're back testing, you know, other things as well. We are doing a lot of work behind the scenes for you guys, right? Trying to help you guys win as much as possible, right? And one of the things that we got from that is that, hey, you should be your nightly bankroll allocations to be somewhere between 2.5 to 5% of your bankroll. And then within that 2.5 to 5%, you should have 25 to 50% of your action in single entries and 3 maxes, and then 50 to 75% of your action in 20 max and 150 max, right? So the DFS profit plan does not say, hey, go take all of your nightly bankroll allocation and play 100% of it in 20 max and 150 max contests, trying to get as many lineups down as possible. That is not what it says. The reason for that is because those 20 max, 150 max contests are usually larger field, right? So let's say that you are playing a 20 max contest with actually, you know what, let's use the piggy bank. I think it's called the piggy bank on FanDuel. I know it's called that for some other sport, maybe football, but it's their 5-cent 150 max contest here. So there's usually about 160 to 190,000 entries in that contest. We're just going to round down. We're going to say that there is 150,000 entries in this 150 max contest. So then if you were to take 150,000, divide that by 150, then your raw odds of winning that contest are one in 1,000, right? Average player is going to win that 1 out of 1,000 times. Well, let's say that you are twice as good as everybody else in your contest, right? So then now the odds that you're going to win is 1 in 500. So you still have to play 500 slates to realize that, right? And you're obviously hoping to realize that sooner than your expectation, but that's still a lot of slates, right? 500 slates is plenty here. I don't even know if you. I'm positive you don't get that many in an MLB season, right? So that's one way to think about it. But if you're playing a single entry contest, FanDuel runs these smaller field single entry contests where it's like maybe 400 entries or something like that. I think like their $5 is somewhere along those lines. Well, if there's only 400 entries in that contest and you are twice as good in the field as the field, now your expectation is 1 in 200 times, right? So the reason for this balance is to help you to get enough money back on a nightly basis or to win more often to smooth out the variance, right? The 20 max and the 150 max contests are usually the bigger prizes, and those are the ones that are going to help you shoot up your bankroll here. But you need to, last long enough to win those contests, right? So mixing in the single entries and 3 maxes, smaller field, smaller prize to first, but still good prizes to first. Those are going to help you with the swings of those large field contests and help you, maintain your bankroll to ultimately get to the point and not go broke before you win that contest, right? So that's why there's a balance. That's why I don't think more lineups are better. I don't think that I agree with that term just right off the bat, just because of what we've discovered in our contest back testing here of what a good mix of contests on a nightly basis looks like. So really good question, but that is my opinion on the topic. All right. We are all caught up with questions at the moment here in both the Office Hours channel and the YouTube chat. So if you guys have any last questions, get those in now. But in the meantime, just want to remind you guys, if you guys are not playing over on Owner's Box, would highly recommend taking advantage of our partnership with them. We were the first major optimizer to support contests on Owner's Box at the beginning of the MLB DFS season here. It's been a great partnership to date. A lot of their contests overlay. You can find reduced rake, find no rake, you can find full overlay, which is when the contest doesn't fill to the point where they're essentially paying you to play. Your $5 entry is worth more than that $5 by the time the contest starts here. So the competition is generally going to be softer than what you can find on DraftKings, FanDuel, or Yahoo here. And then if you use promo code SABER or SaberSim when you sign up, 1, you will get up to a $500 deposit bonus. And 2, we will track your entry fees for you, and you can earn free months of SaberSim just by playing on the site and nothing else. So each time you hit one of our entry fee tiers here, our team will reach out to you, let you know you have earned a free month of SaberSim. And then once you cash in on that free month, your tracking goes back to 0. You automatically start earning towards your next free month. And there is no limit on the amount of free months you can earn while this promotion lasts. Ryan said late swapping for NFL on Owner's Box has me excited. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing their contest offerings, and I'm sure there'll be more information as the NFL season inches closer and closer here. But looks like we are all set for today, everybody. Great show. If you guys have questions throughout the day, building lineups, drop it in the Office Hours channel. Drop it in the YouTube chat for the upcoming streams. Gets us a steady queue of questions to get started with for our next show here. It really helps me out. Before we get out of here, a question from Cheston said, how do you upload the CSV from Owner's Box to SaberSim? So you can do it the same way that you do on DraftKings here. So we have a hyperlink that does that for you. So if you guys are looking for that sign up page, by the way, it's in the description of this YouTube video here. And then in the SaberSim app, if you go over to Owner's Box, you go over to entries here, just make sure you're on the right slate. So it's defaulting to like a 3-game slate. If you go over to the main slate here, 9-gamer, we have this on the entries tab, download template file from Owner's Box hyperlink here, similar to the way we have for DraftKings and FanDuel here. So if you sign up for entries on Owner's Box, come back to the SaberSim app, use this link, and then it will download it for you. And then you just drag and drop into this field, and then you will be all set. But all right, everybody, I'm going to get out of here. Take care. Good luck in your contests. I will see you all tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, as always. Bye.